Resilience Reset. I am Allison Graham, and I am super excited about the conversation that we are about to have. And I say we because I really hope you will join the conversation in the chat box. Even if you're catching this on the replay, both my guest, Heather Odendahl, and I myself will be following the chat, and we can definitely respond to your questions and your thoughts and all of that, because today we are going to dive into the topics, well, actually many topics. So first, I'll tell you about our guest. I'll tell you what topics we're going to cover, and then I'm going to bring her onto the screen, and we will dive into what I imagine will be an incredible conversation. So Heather Odendahl is the CEO and founder of WNORTH. She also has a company called Bluebird Strategy, but today we're really focusing on WNORTH, but I'm sure some of her Bluebird work will come into the thinking as well. And what this organization does, if you aren't familiar with it, I really am going to encourage you, if you have female professionals in your life, or if you are yourself a female professional, to look at this organization. It's across Canada. And so for my international viewers, it's a Canadian based, but essentially what it's there to do is to bridge the gender power gap by elevating women in leadership, in the leadership pipeline. Okay, so I've actually read that. So Heather is the founder and CEO. Super excited to have her. And let's bring her on screen. Heather, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Allison. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. And you know what? I normally do these resilience resets, as you know, by myself. And so I'm super excited to have somebody else to talk to.
I know. Aren't we all just wanting to talk to other people?
Oh my gosh.
Great. I love it. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So I remember years ago, WNORTH, it came into sort of my lexicon just because I was looking at different events and places where I wanted to speak. And at the beginning of 2020, and I don't know if you knew this story, but the team member who reached out to me to have me speak for one of your events, she knows it, that at the beginning of 2020, I had my top 10 events and organizations that I wanted to speak for, and WNORTH was one of them. So I didn't know if you knew that. Well, I wanted to keynote your big Banff conference.
Whistler.
Right. Or Whistler. That was it. It was in Whistler. And but you know what? Then we did the Toronto, and then COVID happened. It was like the week before COVID, so we had to shut it down, right? And then you and I did a virtual event together.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That has been one. Sorry, I'm echoing a little bit. That's been one of the most amazing aspects of the virtual world, is that it has taken geography out of the factor. You know, there's a lot of speakers that I wanted to have come to Whistler, but geographically they were so far away. And then when we moved to virtual, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But yes, it's great that we got connected, and here we are today.
Here we are. So okay, where shall we start? Because I want to, by the end of this program, I want people to understand all of the opportunities you offer with WNORTH, because I think now more than ever, we need to be networking with others, supporting, raising each other up. I'm loving the vibe that I really feel is coming out around collaboration over competition, and just how do we all rise together. So I want to talk about that. So the actual programming, but also you wrote for Forbes, and I know you've been in the Globe and Mail and Financial Post, and like some of the research that you're privy to around how women are showing up in the workplace, the hybrid environment, ways we can support others. So yeah, let's start. But first, I want to ask, how are you seeing with your members? How are people coping?
No, it's a great question. So what we're seeing right now is this kind of reemergence into the world where things are starting to go back to not normal, but a little bit more. You lost me there.
I lost you because I was trying to put the focus on you, and I put the focus accidentally on me. So I'm going to put it back on you.
Yeah. So we one of the things that is happening is we're starting to reemerge into the world. We are starting to go to events in some cases, or small dinner parties, or we are starting to fill up our calendars with things other than work. So what I always like to say is we were kind of burnt out before the pandemic. And, when we went into the pandemic world, what we ended up doing was, just so you know, Allison, I won't be able to hear you when you're
No
behind
problem.
the
I'm
scenes.
going to, you know what I'm doing? And this is like, let me pretend that I'm not doing this behind the scenes, because you said you had an echo. So I'm pulling out my Sherm, things that you're not supposed to see. So I was doing that off camera. I was trying to be really cool and slick is what was happening.
And I just called you out on it.
Totally
I'm
called me
sorry.
out.
I just didn't want you to be asking questions and me not be able to hear you. So it's all good.
No
So
problem.
what I was just saying is, I'm seeing as we start this fall, we start to emerge into kind of getting back to our routine, kids going back to school, some regular activities happening for both individuals and their families, vacations. We're seeing that, oh, we have a life other than work. And so that I have been saying to corporate leaders, expect a small drop in productivity this fall as people start to reclaim some of their lives that they had before that. So when it comes to the women in our WNORTH community, we do have a lot of women who are mothers, some that are not. But one of the things that I've been talking a lot about is supporting those working parents through this fall. I mean, this is the third year that the third school year that's been affected by the global pandemic. So I think it's important to acknowledge that it's going to be a tough couple of months, just kind of getting back into those routines. But what I wanted to touch on today is, you mentioned, with regards to how women can be supported in the workplace. I truly believe that women have a very collaborative style of leadership development and growth. And one of the things that we have been doing for a few years, we're actually just entering into our 10th cohort, is we started something called the Leadership Mastermind. So a mastermind is a model where you're bringing, great minds together to solve problems. And it was something that I was seeing happening a lot in the entrepreneurial space, but very little in kind of that corporate leadership space. So we started this program online virtually about 3.5 years ago. And what it did was it brought together 6 of our members and an executive coach facilitator to have these like really robust discussions about their leadership journey and hiring and managing staff. And what I think is really important about the way that we see these mid management female professionals learn is they want to be networking, and they want to be collectively coding their experiences with other like-minded women. And sometimes in these male dominated sectors, there are not enough women at the table at their level for them to have that type of experience. So as we kind of emerge into quote unquote in-person events or in real life experiences and meetings, that's what WNORTH is doing, is bringing together these women who are at mid-management positions, who are on a trajectory towards senior executive leadership. And we don't want to get off of that trajectory despite a global pandemic. So our goal is to really support them and provide them the network and the resources and the leadership development that they're seeking.
I love this. So it's very much, how important I think that conversation to have your peers, but I never thought about it in terms of there may not be a lot of peers inside the same organization. Like as women grow, that becomes, and then I also wonder too, like I've had some conversations with some of my coaching clients where they're like, I would never admit to my colleagues that I'm this overwhelmed or that I'm, really struggling. And so I think that having that safe external place with a formulated way to have that conversation is hugely important. We do have some comments. I just like to bring them up on the screen, who we have here. We've got Greg. He says hello. He's with us today, and it looks like he's joining us from LinkedIn. And we also have Sarah, who's one of our incredible regulars who comes and hangs out on the show. So awesome to have both of you here. And if you have questions for Heather and this, by all means, put them into the chat box. Sarah says, nice to virtually meet you, Heather. Nice to see you as well. Okay, so you had written an article for Forbes around the hybrid approach. And you also wrote one that was like, now is not the time to let down our female leaders. So do you find, how are companies coping with this issue? And are they still investing in women to go and have them network and be a part of something? Or are they just like with the virtual workplace, is it less on the forefront? How's that working?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so in my Forbes article, Don't Fail Your Women Leaders Now, I talked about, I'm getting that echo stuff. Maybe just go on mute.
I'm going to go find my AirPods. Because I can't, I can't figure out how to get these into my ears. So I'm just.
I will just riff. I'm going to riff. So one of the things.
Resilience Reset riff today. You're up.
All right. I'm on it. So one of the things that I have been writing a lot about is, and I do mention it in this Forbes article, is allow your employees to network externally. As we've been growing our membership community for WNORTH, I've had several conversations with organizations that have said, oh, we have an internal women's network that does the same thing as yours, and it's working just fine. The difference being that you're not allowing your staff to make external connections, which is a huge thing for women to develop their work relationships, their friendships outside of the organization that they work in. So that would be one of the things that I'm noticing is organizations that are trying to almost maybe protect themselves seemingly, whereas so not engaging in external points of connection, that is something that has got to go. As I mentioned, there's less, as higher you get up on that corporate ladder, the less women there are for you to kind of, as I mentioned, code your experiences and share your experiences. And it is really important to be able to have that voice of somebody who's going through the same challenges as you, but maybe not at your organization. So I'd say that's one thing. The other thing that I am a huge advocate for is.
I just want to ask you a little bit about that. By the way, did that take care of the echo? Did that help with the echo? Okay, great. Yeah, I should have had them on. Okay, so is that protectionism? Like if a corporate doesn't want people to go and make new things, are they worried about retention? Are they worried about somebody's going to poach them? Is that what it is? Are we really at a point?
That's what I believe in some of the organizations, that is their true fundamental challenge with it. But on the flip side, if they are not providing their women with these types of experiences, I do believe it is a good retention strategy to support the attendance of their employee to a leadership development course or a conference that may not be full of everybody from the same company. And so, yeah, I do think it is a form of protectionism that I see. And then the other thing I was going to mention is with regards to the way there's obviously been an enormous amount of women who have left the workforce. That is something I have seen in our membership, and we have extended complimentary memberships to those who have had to leave their jobs but would like to stay connected with the community. And the biggest challenge that those women are facing right now is a couple of things. One is there are still many organizations that will not offer the flexibility and the remote or hybrid options that women are seeking. The other thing is that there are every job out there, and this might also be, a structure within our search engines, but every job out there is a full-time job. There are very few search engines or options for a role share, job share scenario, or a couple of days a week for a professional job. And Europe is way ahead of us in this realm. In fact, in Switzerland, you can look for a job online based on a percentage, which is like a percentage of the days of the week. So, a project manager, 60%, and the 60% indicates it's a 3-day-a-week job. So I think that in order to get some of these women back that have left the workforce, there's some fundamental structural changes and opportunities that we should be introducing into our organizations as well.
So, and like, that's such a huge shift, right? And I know one of the things that you had talked about is that most people saw, I think it was 70%, if I'm right, 77% of remote workers actually saw an increase in their productivity. Anecdotally, I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing that, like, I know one of my clients is a firm, so mid-sized firm, 50 people, and we're working on their resilience and stress management and trying to get everybody feeling a little bit happier as they're out there working and doing the good job. And what they found is 1 in 10 of their people were more productive at home. Everybody else, now, maybe it's not fun work. I don't know. Being like, maybe they don't love being an accountant or something, but they actually saw it plummet. So I wonder if there's a gender divide on that, if it's a personality trait, or like, how are we seeing, or how can even companies ensure that they're going to get the most productivity for their clients? Like, what are the benefits to that hybrid model, and how does somebody actually, oh gosh, I'm asking like 20 questions because it's so fascinating to me. Like, how do you lead the productivity at home, give them the flexibility, and still get the work done?
Well, it's interesting. That's an interesting stat that you have in the organization. I would question their motivation in getting their job done. So I think that, what are you doing to continue to motivate your team while they're remote? One of the things that I've experienced, so I was actually a remote employee when I was working for a Fortune 500 company. My sales team, I think 90% of them were close to an office hub, and they met on the weekly basis. And I was the one team member that was on the remote call. And I think what we need to shift towards in this new hybrid is not treating the remote employees like they're second-class citizens, really, like, that they're not
the remote people,
for lack of a better word. Yeah. So I think that there needs to be this focus on how do we really make sure that those people who are not physically at the table get included at the table in the discussions. As far as motivation and productivity go, I do believe, and from what I've seen anecdotally at WNORTH, is that women are more productive at home for the most part. The other thing is that women have so many other things that they're also responsible for that can be accomplished simultaneously, like laundry. I'll give you an example. Just working from home, because I've been working from home for 11 years, so I think I can sort of safely say it takes 2 seconds to put a load of laundry in, and you go and you do it, and you come back to your desk and work. But because you're home, you're able to continue that cycle. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm always folding tiny clothes. But there's things like that type of productivity that motivates women maybe differently than it would motivate men. I'm feeling on top of my
Yeah. So, and I wonder if that is an intrinsic value to the women, not necessarily that the corporate leaders are looking at that as a positive, right? Like it's something that
they wouldn't be, but I would say totally. I would say that's why I wouldn't probably bring that up in a corporate conversation. But I'm doing a course right now. I'm teaching a course on energetic time management for working mothers. And the thing to understand is that if we are taking things off of our list, we are motivated. And like, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy mother, because we just have this wheel that once it's like, we feel like we're getting things accomplished, we're getting the laundry done, the house is clean. I will just bang stuff off and I will be super productive because my holistic life, from my family to my kids to my work, is going like it's moving smoothly, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. And actually, we have some comments in the comment box. So let me pull these up, please. Okay, so Sarah has said, I had a female boss previously. I was better at networking than she was. She originally let me loose to network. Then every time I followed up with a new contact, she wanted to ride on my coattails, think she was feeling protective, that she was the boss and should have the connection. And you know what, like Sarah, thanks for that comment, because I think that, you know, that protectionism that we were talking about earlier, you know, as women get out there and they create these bigger networks, that can also pose a threat or a risk if you're not believing in collaboration over competition. What are you seeing with that? Do you sometimes hear that from your membership, like their bosses or other people in the company are, I don't know, do we want to use the word jealous? That they're out there doing things?
It's interesting because you know, there have been, within a lot of the people who are attracted to our community at WNORTH are probably not that type. They are definitely collaborators, and they are people who are seeking those connections. As far as, I haven't seen a whole lot of that. I guess it would depend on the organization. It would depend on if it was the sales, you know, if it was the competitive, like who's closing the sale, that aspect. But I do think that there are challenges with, you know, I should say there are leaders that have challenges with making these external connections, and that's probably a very good example of one.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. And that also could be personality related in different places within the company, right? Or different organizations. It also very much, like I was talking with someone earlier, and they worked for a big company, one of the Fortune 50s, right? And it was like the goal was to network within the organization. You never would go out into the community, right? Like it's actually like culturally the thing. And so I think in this new world that we're creating, this new work world, as you say, we need to be opening that up. And organizations like WNORTH are really kind of cool to make that happen. I don't know if there are a lot of organizations like yours, though. I shouldn't say that. Okay, so hi, Heather and Allison. Hi, Cord. How are you? Nice to see you here. I'm the only male in a foundational team of the organization. He has 6 people on his team because he's given us another thing. Because I believe them to be the right choices. One is another Forbes featured contributor, by the way, which is cool. I wonder how to do that. That's a good thing. I believe that there are very logical, sorry, it only shows so much at a time, so I have to read the rest. Very logical reasons behind the suitability of women to leadership roles, essentially coming down to issues surrounding displacement of primary intelligence by secondary. There we go. Yeah, that's a good point.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cord.
Awesome. And another question here. Greg has asked, Heather, what about those that are in the early stages of their career? What are some ways to support and empower newer employees to think about their career paths and opportunities in leadership? Do you think that formal mentorship programs are a good start, or do you feel external resources are more effective from the broader perspective?
Great question, and I have a lot of opinions on this.
Go for it.
I do believe that mentorships are, you know, a powerful tool, and I have benefited from many along the way. The most powerful tool I am seeing right now for, especially, early to mid stage female professionals is this model of a peer mentorship combined with executive coaching and facilitation. So I mentioned a little earlier, we do a leadership mastermind in that format, and we do a number of other programs. We were doing a fair amount of one-on-one work, but what's interesting, and one of the reasons we built this program, is executive coaching is very valuable, but it's also very expensive. So when you've got early stage professionals in your organization that you want to support, maybe having a couple $1,000 budget for a month per month for executive coaching is not on the cards, which it isn't for many. So that is fundamentally why I started WNORTH, is to find these leadership development strategies that worked for early to mid career professionals that were more affordable. Because what's happening right now, or has been happening for a few years, is a lot of the resources get pooled for those really high level, high potential females that may be already at the VP level or director level, and there's very little left for the women kind of in that early to mid career professional segment, I guess. And so a lot of the programs, the conference, our membership has all been built around how to support those women. And I would say there are large organizations that may have an internal women's network, but a lot of the times they are really broad. So they are really focused on every woman in the organization. And so at WNORTH, we are more hyper-focused on those high potential leaders that are on a trajectory towards senior executive leadership that you may want to be grooming for a senior level position in the next 5 to 10 years. Oh, I've lost your sound.
Because I muted. So with the Leadership 360 course, would that be where they would get the training more? And then the Leadership Mastermind is more where you get the coaching and the pieces of the puzzle, right? And then the networking. So what else? So there's also, you've got the program. So the teaching the program, the energetic leadership for moms, which is really cool. I actually did a talk last week on LinkedIn with Michelle from BC, who is Mindful HR Solutions, and we were talking about the difference between energy management and time management. So this must be coming to the forefront of conversation. And for the Resiliency Reset viewers, tune in next Tuesday, because she and I are going to be having a conversation about the very topic as well. So I think that's really important. But can you expand on that, like energetic versus time management? What's your take and how does it work?
Yes. So it is, energetic time management is about reverse engineering the way that you structure your time based on the way you want to feel. And we are really focused on also looking at your energy levels. We had a session last week, which I think is not spoken about enough in women's leadership, around your cycle syncing and cycle optimization. What certain activities you should be doing at certain times of your cycle. There's certain times where you're more analytical, where you're more creative, where you're maybe less productive in certain areas. So that's one side, but then there's also energy, and there's also the fuel that we put inside of our bodies, and going back to what I was saying about managing those external pulls of laundry kits, all of those things, so that when you sit down to work, you are your most productive. So that's a little bit about the energetic time management mastermind. But some of the other programs that you just mentioned, so the Leadership 360 course, that was our 2020 pivot when we had to cancel our in-person conference and we moved everything online. We developed a 6-week, 6-module course with expert leaders from across Canada in negotiation, conflict resolution, inclusive leadership. 6 of the main skills that we had identified for emerging leaders. and we developed this course. So the course is available. It's on our website for any leaders that want to delve into that subject. And then agreed, like, as you mentioned, our membership also supports them throughout the year. So we do monthly workshops, we do virtual member meetups for the networking aspect, and we also are starting in-person member meetups in small groups in 10 chapter cities next month.
So, okay, because I also want to talk about this, the idea around, because you had all these events in person that had to be canceled, like so many people in the event industry. I mean, my whole calendar blew up, as you know, when COVID happened, and then we shift to virtual. What's been the appetite for people? How comfortable are people coming out to these events? You're going to start next month. Are they full? Is there a lot of space? Are people reluctant? Protocols? How is all of that working for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've hosted 2 in-person events already during the summer, and as we enter into this next new world, we are doing a couple of things. One is we are taking a lead from the province of British Columbia, which is where we are based, and we are making a vaccination requirement on our in-person events. And so that's one thing, and that has helped definitely with comfort levels, that people are they're more comfortable. And the other thing is, what we're seeing is people are interested in smaller, like more curated groups. So that's why we started with our member meetups as the first thing to come back. People aren't quite ready to do the like 100 people in the room networking, talking, and moving around just yet. We're hoping, in the next few months. But I think the sit down, experience with our member meetups and our dinners, which are always under 20 people, those things are really popular right now because we talk a lot about contacts in COVID. You know how many contacts you've been introduced to. So I think that's what I'm seeing as the smaller events.
That makes sense. And hopefully one day we'll come back. I actually have a keynote with a 150 person audience at the convention center in first week of October. And I'm super excited about it. They're going to do hybrid to have both. But I think people are really, it's the first time I've had 150 people in one room since before COVID. And I'm just my fingers are crossed that there's no big fourth wave cancellation, obviously, right? But I think you're right. I even feel more comfortable going to a smaller group, right? So this is going to be out of the comfort zone, and I'm super excited about it. But I just hope eventually your big conference in Whistler will come back, right? Because you had about 100, 150 people at that generally, and a fairly curated group of women as well. It's your members who are, great.
It's our intention to return after 3-year hiatus in April 2022.
Okay, great. And then I just want to ask, as we wrap up, because we're at about our time for the resilience reset, how can we, the people who are watching this, we have both men and women who are watching, and how can we support WNORTH? Because I think all of us could agree it's really critical to continue to support females as they come through the ranks. So I'm going to ask very specifically, as an individual who's watching this program, what should we do? And if you're part of a corporate organization and looking to figure out how do you raise more of your female leaders, what should they do? So if you can offer us 2 calls to action for how we can support.
Well, from the individual perspective, we are, on October 1st, we are reopening the doors to our membership. The doors have been closed for several months, and we are reopening those doors, and that's also coinciding with our in-person member meetups. So if you're an individual and you are looking you're looking to develop your network, I would say join the membership. Specifically our mastermind membership, which gains you access to our in-person events, or the digital if you'd like to remain kind of more virtually connected. As a corporation, we have corporate membership packages for anyone from from 3 memberships all the way up to 50 or 100. So if you are looking for a way, we have a couple of key partners in this area, Indeed.com, PwC, RBC, where they have supported their high potential talent within their organization with memberships. And that's a year-round engagement, and that gives them access to all of our workshops and our events as well. So those are the 2 ways I would say, come and be a part of it. We're tripling the size of our membership, and we're hoping to have 2,000 members by the end of June 2022.
Woo! That's amazing. Okay, awesome. So then I'm going to add in a third call to action, because I know some of the people who are on the call who wouldn't be like great members opportunity, some because they're male, and some because they're just too far in their career at this point. Like, I think to make sense to be your person. So here's what I'm going to suggest: that each of us think of who is the up and coming corporate superstar in our lives who we know who would benefit from WNORTH, and send this video to them.
That's a great idea. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think, and the inviting somebody, you know, if you're a manager, to just offer to, like, if you're not necessarily in the HR function and you're not able to make a decision on a corporate perspective, that doesn't mean that you can't sponsor one person's membership. So a lot of the times our members are hesitant to ask their employer. It's just nature. A lot of women sometimes do have those challenges with negotiation. So offer to support that membership. Our membership is $400 US a year, and it gains them access to over 50 virtual events. So it's really valuable, and it could be something that you could offer to your team member.
Yeah. And that is so reasonable for a membership. Like 400 US is like, that I think
that's
some
what
people
we're
spend
trying
more than
to
on
achieve.
shoes.
I know. And we're taking a lot of our cues from large organizations like YPO and, Chief, which is a women's network. And we're providing a lot of the similar strategies and workshops and offerings, but at a way more affordable price point.
Yeah. And Kai Min has just said here, great advice. Thank you, Heather. So she is an up and comer herself, actually. So she's out in the workforce.
Join us in Toronto.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's our fastest growing membership, or our fastest growing chapter is Toronto.
I noticed you're also doing Kitchener-Waterloo.
We are, and Ottawa.
Okay, good for you. So really expanding into Ontario. Yeah.
Definitely.
You don't have anything planned in Chatham, Kent, do you? I moved out to the country. I'm teasing.
Where's your closest location? I don't even know.
Well, I'm halfway between London, Ontario, where I used to be my home base and is still like my city of choice, right? And Windsor. So I'm smack dab in the middle. So, and KW isn't too far for me either. So, and
we'll have to get you to that.
Awesome. We don't need it to be, where does Allie like everybody to come to meet? We just create chapters for whatever organization I want.
She's in London. You can come to our Kitchener-Waterloo. We are just launching in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Oh, I should have known that. Actually, that's my fault. Yeah, for sure. She's in London. Good. All right. Well, listen, I am so grateful that you took time to come and hang out with us today and have this conversation. I think the work you're doing is phenomenal, and we just need to keep raising people up, right? There's so much negativity in the world, and everything we can do to surround ourselves with people who are growing and moving, and like that's what this is all about. Like every day to just sit and reflect on our personal and professional development and have that reset, so we don't just get caught up in the world of busy and doing. And when you can join an organization that is supporting that, I'm like 2 thumbs up for people. Go at it, make it happen. So thank you very much. And what is it, WNORTH.com if they're looking for it, or just Google it?
WNORTHconnect.com.
Okay,
and
great.
That's a really great place to start.
Wonderful. All right, so I'll just turn you off and I'll come back to the main thing here, main screen, just to say thank you for joining us. I'm going to try to put more interviews. I know we've done a couple in the past, but I'm going to try to bring one in about once a week. So if you have any ideas of really great guests to join, please send them my way. And I am grateful for each and every one of you for coming, being a part of this Resilience Reset. If somebody needs to hear this conversation, please consider sharing. And of course, I love your likes and your comments. Help get the word out there. And I also, you'll notice my website, alisongraham.co/lift-up, if you want to be on my weekly email where it's like a 1 or 2 minute read with something that will inspire you and get your neurons firing, which was an email I got back today saying, thank you for getting my neurons firing. So that was awesome. And I'm going to put that up there for WNORTHconnect.com. Thank you. So I hope you have the best day. And until next time, may you stress less, do more, and be happier. Bye for now.